that. And a vivid example is the California fire situation. So President Trump says it's all Governor Newsom's fault. Newsom says that's crazy. The truth is somewhere in the middle. But the blame game is intense. So here's what's going on. As everybody knows, California is prone to fires, mudslides, and natural disasters. The state run by Gavin Newsom is not prepared to fight these occurrences. Here's an example. 10 years ago, the legislature in Sacramento okayed the construction of 7 water storage facilities. Now, you may have heard, and it is true, that Los Angeles firefighters say they didn't have enough water to fight the blazes when they broke out, so they spread. That is true. 7 water storage facilities might have prevented that, but no, they were not built in California. Why? Because of environmentalists. They didn't want to hurt the snail darter and other creatures. The truth. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I approve the message by writing it. You can reach me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. Now let's go to the mail. All right. Kenny Lindsay, New Hudson, Michigan. Bill, I took your advice and didn't speak a word of politics during our New Year's Eve gathering. However, by accident, I was drinking from my not woke mug and I got some sneers. But that's good. That's good. See, nobody sneers at me because that might not end well. But if somebody did and I have my not woke mug and I was going and somebody was sneering, I'd say, okay, so what is the problem? Why are you sneering when I'm drinking from my not woke mug? I'm not woke. Are you woke? And then you get into a discussion. Why are you woke? Why does being not woke offend you? You could have a lot of fun with that. I would. I don't get angry about that stuff. It's dopey. I can't get these pages. I don't have fat fingers either. I don't know what's going on. Gregory Clancy, Edmond, Oklahoma. Bill, congratulations on 50 years in the journalism business. Selfishly, I hope you aren't close to retirement. I also noticed that the polling organizations you brought on the program before the election did predict the Trump victory, as did you. You were the only accurate source. Not only, but we were way ahead on that election. I'm glad you noticed, Greg. Thank you. In a moment, something you might not know. As you know, the world is a dangerous place. Pandemics, political chaos, natural disasters. You know it's coming. And when it does, you don't want to get caught unprepared. So you need to think about All Family Pharmacy. They provide life-saving and maintenance medications, antibiotics, and more. And yes, they've got the miracle drug everyone's been talking about, ivermectin, starting at just $3 a capsule. Here is the truth. When the system collapses and shortages happen, the unprepared suffer. Do not be one of them. All Family Pharmacy makes it fast and easy to stock up on all your meds. Here's the deal. Go to allfamilypharma.com/Bill right now. Use the code BILL10 for 10% off your order. Again, allfamilypharma, one word, .com/Bill. Use code BILL10.
Are you sitting on hidden treasure? Manchester Coin and Jewelry wants to turn your valuables into cash. We're Missouri's premier gold buyers and jewelry specialists with years of expertise. We offer top dollar for your coins, antiques, precious metals, and collectibles. From gold and silver to clocks and jewelry, we buy it all. Don't let your treasures collect dust. Let Manchester Coin and Jewelry give you the best value. Visit online at buyingvaluables.net or come see him today at 141 in Manchester and tell him News Talk STL sent you.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council. They say that it will cost us $3 billion to deport every single illegal immigrant.
How much money have we already given other countries to defend their own borders? Is our country not worth defending? Are our borders not worth defending? Is the future of our country not worth defending?
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Now, the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. 65 years ago today, communist fighters in South Vietnam came together under a single organization. The guerrillas call themselves the National Liberation Front. We know them as the Viet Cong. Here is the story. After an armed uprising against the French occupation in 1954, Vietnam was divided into two countries. The North was ruled by communists with support from China, the South a fragile democracy backed by the USA. Despite the split, South Vietnam was home to millions of socialist sympathizers. In January 1960, the Marxists united under the name Viet Cong, which simply translates to Vietnamese communists. Weapons and munitions were ferried into the country from the north. The group then launched, quote, the People's Offensive. In 1965, 3,000 U.S. soldiers invaded a region southeast of Saigon called Viet Cong Zone D, but they were unable to find the enemy. The operation was called off after 3 days. 5 years later, 500,000 Americans were fighting in the jungles of Vietnam. As America became embroiled in the conflict, the Viet Cong launched clandestine operations against U.S. troops. At its height, the group consisted of 400,000 communist fighters, most of whom only came out at night. Many lived in tunnels. Cu Chi was a center of operations. The Vietnam War officially ended on January 27th, 1973. The Paris Peace Accords were signed by delegates from America, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, and members of the Viet Cong. The pact called for the withdrawal of American forces, a complete ceasefire, the release of prisoners of war, and no further invasions. Well, the communists broke the agreement almost immediately after U.S. troops were withdrawn. Today, Vietnam is a communist nation. Back after this. Many believe President Trump's victory is a big win for the American economy because Bidenomics really punished many Americans. I rely on physical precious metals like gold and silver to safeguard my retirement savings. And the only precious metals company I trust is American Hartford Gold. A tax-advantaged gold IRA can protect your savings from inflation, recession, and stock market downturns. You can roll over your 401k or IRA tax and penalty free. With thousands of five-star ratings, an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, American Hartford Gold has delivered billions in precious metals. Act now. Call or text American Hartford Gold today. Tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you for up to $15,000 of free silver on qualifying offers. Here's the number, 877-444-GOLD, or you can text GOLD Gold to 65532. That's 877-444-GOLD or text GOLD to 65532. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLDY-HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Los Angeles wildfire deaths rise to at least 24, with just as many missing, and fierce winds forecast to increase overnight.
A growing number of firefighters, including from out of state and out of the country, as well as equipment like planes and water trucks, are in the Los Angeles area as more winds threaten new wildfires. LA County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney.
We're very well prepared for the next event, but that's never going to be, we're never sure that we're going to be able to catch the next fire and keep it small. They said 70-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to be very difficult to contain that fire.
He warns, be prepared for evacuations. This comes as many residents try to get back to check their homes and pets following their first evacuations last Tuesday. I'm Julie Walker.
A recall petition is being circulated for LA's Democratic Mayor Karen Bass. Bob Agnew reports.
Bass has survived a lot of problems in Los Angeles, including rising crime and homelessness, but the devastating fires could be the final straw for many voters. As of Sunday, the petition to remove Bass from office had surpassed 86,000 signatures. Many LA residents blaming what they call the mayor's gross mismanagement, including a cut of nearly $18 million from the LA Fire Department for the 2024-25 fiscal year. If not for those cuts, many believe the fires would have already been contained. Bob Agnew reporting.
Officials say U.S. and Arab mediators made significant progress overnight toward brokering a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war and the release of scores of hostages held in the Gaza Strip, but a deal has not been reached yet. Four officials said Monday that progress has been made and the coming days would be critical. On Wall Street, the Dow by 358 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF for Relief Factor.
I don't really like working. I'm going to need a priority parking space. I only work remotely. How are your safe spaces? Can I bring my dog to work? Will your company protect me against microaggressions? You're triggering me. Is this interview almost over?
You don't run a daycare. You run a business. That's why you need RedBalloon.work. Red Balloon has recruiters and hiring tools to help you hire adults. Call 833-880-0600 for a free consultation. That's 833-880-0600 for a free consultation.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. May see a few flurries Tuesday morning, temperatures in the low 20s, but then sunshine in the afternoon, a high of 27. It's a cold day. Some cold air is rushing in during the afternoon and setting us up for a really cold one Wednesday morning, a low of 7 Wednesday morning, a high of 29 with mostly sunny skies Wednesday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michaels Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michaels Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michaels Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Ackerman Toyota is #1 in sales for 2024. That is 2 years in a row. It's really no surprise. Ackerman has the largest customer lounge where you can relax, take your time choosing new or premium pre-owned. Ackerman at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 2 years in a row. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
At Elite Comfort Experts, they don't offer gimmicks. They just offer guarantees. They offer upfront transparent pricing on repairs and replacements. And if you're looking for a new water heater or a new furnace with new government mandates and 2025 manufacturer price hikes, delaying a replacement means paying more. But here's some good news for you. You can now save with tax credits, utility rebates, and easy financing. As I said, no gimmicks with Elite Comfort Experts, just guarantees. They also have emergency services available 24/7 when you need it most. Most HVAC contractors, they promise a 90-day installation warranty and a 30-day repair warranty. But what do you get with Elite? A 1 year on all warranty and repairs. That is unheard of in the industry. Elite is not interested in short-term relationships. They want to have a lifetime relationship with you. You can visit them online at elitecomfortexperts.com, elitecomfortexperts.com, or give them a call at 636-887-0971, 636-887-0971. Tell them Chris Arps told you to call.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We're going to start with those deadly California wildfires as crews prepare for more powerful winds today that could once again fuel the flames. Right now, red flag warnings are in place for areas in and around Los Angeles. The fierce Santa Ana winds are set to return this week, bringing the possibility of a new round of fires. Now, just last hour, LA officials confirmed at least 24 people are dead. Many others are still missing. So far, the flames have scorched about 40,000 acres and destroyed more than 12,000 buildings and structures, many of them homes.
And good afternoon. Welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Yes, California catastrophe. The fires continue to rage. And as you just heard there, they may get worse before things get better. Was it preventable? Possibly to some extent. And that's not just me saying that. If you watch the news at all over the weekend, you'll see that there's a lot of finger pointing and blame throwing being tossed all over the place. Where's the mayor? It seems like they've stuck her in a closet somewhere and they're not letting her come out. The mayor who was in Ghana, Mayor Bass, who was in Ghana, taking a trip as many of these warnings were being published and people knew that we were entering this deadly season of wildfires. It's not like wildfires have never existed in the state of California, and she's off gallivanting around the globe. And forget about that. Let's say we're going to give her the benefit of the doubt on leaving town while things were all hunky-dory before the fires raged. How about the fact that she cut over $17 million out of the fire department budget, and she seems to be much more worried about DEI than in fighting flames. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL. It is Monday. It's January the 13th, 2025, which means it's also Missouri statewide inauguration day. I am actually, if you can see me on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, or Instagram, you'll see that I'm not in the studio. I am in the beautiful confines, this is the upper office, by the way. This is the upper office of State Senator Nick Schroer. I'll explain that in a minute. And Chris Arps is not on today. He's actually here in Jefferson City. I saw him roaming the hallways earlier. One of us had to draw the short straw, though, and I guess that was me. No, I'm kidding. I'm very, very excited and happy to speak with you all about statewide inauguration and what the Missouri legislative session will bring. Excited to bring you up to speed on everything around the globe. 8 days, right? No, 7 days. 7 days until Donald Trump takes the oath of office. Not only am I broadcasting from Jefferson City for the statewide inauguration, next week, God willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be broadcasting live from the Big Swamp in Washington, D.C. from the Donald Trump inauguration. Going to be heading up there on Sunday afternoon. I'll be broadcasting from there on Monday and Tuesday, back in the studio next Wednesday. Man, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to get through over the next few hours and days and weeks ahead. 2025 has hit the ground running. Hope you're listening to us today in some fashion. If you hear the sound of my voice, you definitely are. You could be listening to me right now from inside the Missouri Capitol Dome if you simply had our app. All you got to do is download our app on your telephone. You can go to the iPhone store, the Android store. You download News Talk STL. The app is fantastic, and it works anywhere, not just in the country, but around the globe, wherever you can safely secure a Wi-Fi or cellular signal. You can carry us in your pocket. You can Bluetooth your phone to your favorite smart speakers, stereo surround sound, whatever the case might be. You can listen to us on smart speakers. You can listen to us at newstalkstl.com. And through the magic of radio, I'm back here in the Capitol, and producer Joey V is back in the studio. Joey, I don't have as fancy of a setup as you had up here last week, but I'm making it work with the hamster wheel.
Oh, great to see you on camera there, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad you made it up to Jeff City just perfectly fine. I saw Chris had like the nicest tan pea coat and one of those Pharrell hats. I don't know who's dressing him, but he looks sharp today in his photos.
Coming down the hallway, I saw this guy in the distance. I was like, "Is that a rock star?" And it was Chris Arps. So yes, he and Becky Arps are roaming the hallways right now. So I'll briefly explain what happened today. So last week was legislative inauguration, so swearing in, right? So last week high noon, Wednesday, and this is all constitutional. So it's not like somebody makes this up and decides what to do every year. In Missouri, we have a guidebook to follow. It's the Missouri Constitution. It's all spelled out and laid out in there. And then, of course, there's all the customs and formalities that develop over the years and the generations. So per the Constitution, the Missouri legislature, the House and the Senate, they gavelled back into session last week. Joey, Chris, and I were up here broadcasting live from the Capitol Dome on the first day of the legislative session. So the legislature is seated. They are ready to rock and roll. However, we had to have statewide inauguration today. That was at high noon. Outside on the Capitol steps in the 18-degree weather, I talked to several of the patrons who were here today. They said it wasn't too bad because they moved it along very rapidly. There was a very cool flyover with 3 jets, I would imagine, from the Missouri National Guard. That was pretty cool. I arrived in Jeff City in time to see the jet zip over. It's a beautiful sunny day here in the heartland. I believe the sun is shining in St. Louis as well and across most of the Midwest. So not only was the governor inaugurated today, but also 4 other of our constitutional statewide officers, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, the secretary of state, and the treasurer. So we've got it's all done. It's all baked in the cake. And tonight will be all the festivities and the receptions under the Capitol Dome, and the dinners and the dancing and the food and the drink will be flowing aplenty. If you are anywhere within easy driving distance of the Capitol, you may join us tonight. It is open. This is your house. This is the people's house. Some of the legislators, some of the statewide officers, they'll put together a nice little invitation and send it to anybody who's on their contact list. But whether or not you got an invite, I'm inviting you I guess that's the one thing I can do, right? As a former Speaker of the House, I'm inviting you to your state capitol tonight. If you see me in the hallways, please stop and say hello. Always love running into News Talk STL Nation listeners. And it will be an honor and a pleasure to see you. So we have a new governor, Mike Kehoe. We have a brand new lieutenant governor, David Wassinger from the St. Louis lands. We have a brand new Secretary of State, my very good friend, Freedom Caucus founder, Denny Hoskins, former state senator, former state rep. He's had a wonderful career in public service, serving the people. He's now going to be serving all of us at the Secretary of State's office. And 2 fellas who were appointed by Governor Parson, but had not yet run for election before the whole citizenry of the state of Missouri. They were reelected to a full 4-year term, and that would be Attorney General Andrew Bailey, who we spoke with last week here at the Capitol, and State Treasurer Vivek Malik. I saw the treasurer last week briefly. We'll have to get him back on the program as well. But every last week we had everybody on except for the gov and the treasurer. And I just spoke with our state auditor. That's our 6th constitutional officer, Scott Fitzpatrick, he'll be up for re-election in 2026. The auditor is on the off cycle, but I ran into Scott Fitzpatrick in the hallway, had a nice chat with him, and he said to tell all of our listeners hello. So we've got a jam-packed show. We've got a jam-packed show for all y'all here today. It's our typical it is our typical Monday show, and then some, because I am at the state capitol, and I just want to make sure that I'm not making anything up. But yes, we have a Jim Talent. We have Jim Talent on at 4:25. Former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Going to have to ask Jim what he thinks about the Trump administration taking the helm finally last week. Man, hold on, he's coming, and not a minute too soon. I mean, we have crises and conflagrations and chaos raging not only in our country with the wildfires, with inflation. I mean, if you watched the market the last few days, thankfully the Dow rebounded a little bit today, but the NASDAQ continues to suffer. This is a really crappy, horrible, weak economy. We've been telling you that for months, and we're called right-wing fearmongers, et cetera, and so forth. No, folks. Inflation is still raging. It's still way too high. Prices have not gone down. The markets are extremely jittery. Mortgage rates continue to be at historic highs. So there's nothing really to celebrate about this economy at this point. Hopefully Donald Trump will turn that around. And that's not even to mention all of the disasters that are raging around the globe. We'll, of course, be talking to Jim Talent about some of those and how things might change. And look, you know, I'm not Pollyannish about this. I just know my history. Jimmy Carter struggled with a hostage crisis of his own for how many dozens, hundreds of days, right? The Iranian hostage crisis. And it was like someone flipped a light switch. The minute Ronald Reagan took the oath of office, the Iranians knew better than to mess with the cowboy from California. And they released all of the hostages that they were retaining. And so we have a similar situation. So many parallels between the Jimmy Carter presidency and the Joe Biden one. Although I would argue the Joe Biden one is 1,000 times worse. And Joe Biden is not going to have the arguable success that many believe Jimmy Carter had, being the longest serving former president in our nation's history. Joe Biden is 80 some odd years old. He's obviously mentally incapacitated just about at this point, and he's not really fit for much of anything, much less continue to be president of the United States. But we have a similar hostage crisis going on right now in Israel with Americans and Israelis and others from around the world being held. And Joe Biden, meanwhile, continues to live in like the empty space between his ears, because today, in one of his, I guess, ongoing farewell addresses, can he just say goodbye and leave? He says that he's leaving Trump with a strong hand to play. That's his quote, a strong hand to play, while defending his record on, get this, there's a couple of things Joe Biden could have chosen and maybe argued. I still would have not agreed with them. But he chose Afghanistan. Like, that was the point in time early in his presidency when his presidency never recovered. And the disaster, the disastrous evacuation, not blaming our military men and women, blaming Joe Biden and his political commanders, worst military operation and worst ending to a military operation, probably in, I don't know, maybe our nation's history. We'll ask Jim Talent about that and more at 4:25. We will have the speaker's stump speech at 5:07. I've got the latest update from our friends at U-Haul, showing where you're like, you're going to give us a moving update, Jones? No, I'm going to talk about where people moved from and where people moved to. You could probably guess both of those things, but I've got the receipts, the data, and the details. I'm going to lay it all on you at 5:07. How money walks and where did money move, along with the people that hold that coin. And we're not talking just the wealthy. We're talking all Americans. Where did all Americans move from? Where did all Americans move to in 2024? The data is in, courtesy of our friends at U-Haul, and that's been written about quite ubiquitously over the last few weeks. I'm going to break it all down for you at 5:07. Susie Moore, the one and only deputy managing editor at Red State, redstate.com, host of the More to the Point commentary. You hear her frequently at News Talk STL. She'll be joining us at 5:25. I wonder if she's here at the Capitol or on her way. I'm not sure. I know she's come to these events before. We'll have to pry into her personal private life. No, she'll be happy to tell us if she's going to be joining us up here tonight. And at 5:45, I'll prepare you for Larry Connors USA. He, of course, is on these airways every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. The Allman Report, the one and only Jamie Allman at 8 p.m. Joey V and I are here this afternoon. Joey, how was your weekend? Did you shovel a bunch of driveways and unearth a bunch of poor old ladies from the snow?
My goodness, this snow almost broke me and my girlfriend up. Our relationship is on the fritz.
Oh, my.
She went against my judgment and tried to park on our street, which hasn't been plowed once, and she got stuck. I even told her, don't try and come up the street, and she did it anyway, and she got stuck. So I had to throw on my snow pants at 11 p.m. and push her into a little spot until the next day when it got sunny, and then I dug her out. But oh my goodness, I was livid for a little bit, but all is forgiven now.
You were warning us about the dangers of Kasavasevich last week and how the streets really hadn't been kind of clear. Mike Ferguson was talking about that this morning too. Are you guys like neighbors? Do you like live near the same place?
He lives across the street from me on McCausland. He's on the county
Okay.
side and I'm on the city side. So I'm sure we've got the same lackadaisical snowplow drivers on both sides.
Yeah, I hope NODOT took a lot of good notes because they never need to do this ever again. I don't know what the problem was. I just don't know if they didn't. I don't know if they didn't understand what happens when ice and sleet build up about 4 or 5 inches and then snow on top. I don't know. There was something. This hasn't happened this badly in a long time. So I don't know if it was just the way this storm took us or the way it was treated. I'm really not sure, Joey, but I agree with you. It was not their best effort. That is for sure.
I was out there trying with a hammer to break up the ice street that I have accumulated on my street because the snow never got plowed. So it just got compacted over and over. And then it was just a solid sheet of ice. So I was in the middle of the road with a hammer, just breaking it up so I could get a little bit of traction to get up the street. I looked pretty silly, but it worked.
Yeah, and Joey's talking about residential areas, so this wasn't just MoDOT. MoDOT failed in and of itself on some of our highways and byways, but it seemed like some of the local municipalities and the counties had struggles as well. And by the way, folks, before you send hate mail to your legislators about MoDOT, this is one of the biggest problems of MoDOT. MoDOT, for whatever reason, this goes back to the beginning of time when MoDOT was created, which I don't know what year that was, but it was in the deep, dark past. And I'll have to have somebody explain to me what the wisdom of this was because I don't see much wisdom in it. MoDOT is largely outside the auspices of the legislature. They are like the fourth branch of government. They're a commission. They're governed by a commission, a MoDOT commission, and the commission is appointed by the governor. So I guess if you want to blame someone, you can blame whoever the governor is or was when these commissioners serve various years and terms. So, not the same governor appoints all the commissioners because they have staggered terms. Suffice it to say, MoDOT needs some accountability. MoDOT needs, I think, to be under the auspices more of the legislature. And I know that Cindy O'Loughlin, the incoming Senate president, she's been complaining about this as well. Maybe she's going to do something about it this year. So, all right, we're going to get back to international foreign affairs, public policy, and the chaos and crises created by Joe Biden and whether or not Donald Trump's going to be able to unwind this mess and more with Jim Talent. He's going to be joining Joey and I next. He is the chairman of the Reagan Institution National Security Council. He's going to be with us on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show to talk about all that and more here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. May see a few flurries Tuesday morning, temperatures in the low 20s, but then sunshine in the afternoon, a high of 27. It's a cold day. Some cold air is rushing in during the afternoon and setting us up for a really cold one Wednesday morning. A low of 7 Wednesday morning, a high of 29 with mostly sunny skies Wednesday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
So what's going on?
Right here.
To me, this looks like the run-up to World War II.
News Talk STL.
They're playing with fire. Democrats are destroying the country.
News, analysis, opinion.
It is already closing in on mid-January. Didn't we just have New Year's Eve? Yeah, it's January 13th. Tomorrow's January 14th. And that means we are entering home buying and selling season. Like nowadays, I know we're in a very busy world. We have an economy where people are able to easily move about the country. And so it's probably always home buying and selling season, but there's probably definitely peaks and valleys, right? And as we head into spring, that's one where people really start thinking about buying and selling your home. Did you discuss that over the weekend? Did that topic come up? Then I need you to pay very close attention. I'm going to tell you about the people you need to call if you have decided to buy or sell a home. That would be the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen Wallner standing by to assist you today at 314-810-SOLD. They're going to offer you a flexible commission plan tailored to your family specific needs, not some cookie cutter model, off the shelf model. It is going to come with a very important provision, though, that you're going to absolutely want in it, and that is a no obligation, no long-term commitment clause. If you're not happy, simply change your mind, went out of your agreement. You simply tell them that, and you can come back whenever you're ready to proceed. No questions asked. No harm, no foul. They want you to be the happy camper. You are the client. You're the customer. The Wallners, though, have so many approved home buyers. You stick with them, they're going to guarantee to obtain you an offer, selling 15 times more homes than your typical realtor. And you can get that level of service when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois. They're a husband and wife team, 2 for the price of 1. Can't beat that with a stick. And also, they're experts in the industry. They do this as a career and a profession. They're not some fly-by-night outfit that sells homes as their 7th or 8th job on the weekends. Call the Wallners today for a free listing consultation. You will sell your home with this top-producing real estate team of Rodney and Jen Wallner. 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
In the most awful conditions, longer now than our hostages were held in 1979 in Iran. It's just unacceptable, and there are going to be consequences to those who think they can take an American. There is going to no longer be any upside for anyone who harms Americans abroad.
Yes, some notable words there from that was incoming National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Congressman Mike Waltz, talking about the hostage crisis in the Middle East. Echoes of 1979. Let's speak with our next guest and see what he thinks about those parallels and more.
Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator, good evening. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. I'm actually broadcasting from one of the places you know as well as I do, and that's our Missouri State Capitol. We got statewide inauguration today. Chris is out roaming the halls somewhere. He's busy hobnobbing, so you and I are going to have to shoulder the load today. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to. Well, he can always go to the Senate and get a cup of coffee, can't he? Senate coffee.
That is true.
When I'd work late, I'd wander over there if I wanted coffee, and there it was. So some things don't change.
That is true. You are right. They still have that little coffee closet up there on the third floor. Senator, what do you think about the comments there from Mike Waltz, who's the incoming national security advisor? Do you see the parallels between the 1979 hostage crisis? You may have to remind our listeners a little bit of that. I know you and I remember it. Some of our others might not. And what's happening now? And might we get the same positive result? What do you think?
There are a lot of parallels. Hamas is the governing entity in Gaza, as the Iranian government was, and the Iranians took American diplomatic personnel hostage. Hamas has taken American tourists hostage, which I guess you could argue is not as bad. On the other hand, the Iranians at least treated our people in captivity in a decent way, which Hamas has not done. Look, I mean, if I get going on this, Tim, I'm going to rant because the right of Americans to move trade and travel in the world in security on the same terms as everybody else is a vital national interest of the United States. Always been viewed that way. And the failure of the Biden administration even to talk about these people, much less make a significant effort on the part of the United States itself to get them back, is terrible. And we should have been telling Iran, because Iran is the one with influence with Hamas from the beginning. We should have told Iran, look, this is between you and us, not between you and the Israelis. You took Americans, and we want them released. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is saying. As soon as I heard his voice, Waltz has a very distinctive voice, so you recognize it right away. So I think what they're going to do, and I'm sure Waltz is already working on this, they're going to staff up a bunch of options for the president to impose costs and consequences on Iran or its proxies or Hamas. Now, I don't know what we can do to Hamas that the Israelis aren't already doing, right? But they'll have some plans available, and it's very clear the president's going to be implementing them. So I wouldn't mind seeing him take out a bunch of the Houthis, which is one of their remaining proxies. That'd be a good way to impose some pressure on Iran.
Yeah, Senator, 1 week from today, the biggest change is going to be that there's going to be a commander-in-chief in the White House who's going to demand many of the things you just mentioned versus kind of the wishy-washy, hoping for change kind of attitude that we've had the last 4 years, right?
Yeah, and a person who understands what our interests are. And I hate to talk in a cold way. We're talking about people here, obviously, and we need to get them back. But we also need to vindicate the rights of the United States and its nationals. And I think President Trump understands that. This is all, Biden's approach is an outgrowth, not just of his weakness and what we knew all along was his infirmity, but also the fact that they were proceeding on the assumption that Iran could be a strategic partner in the Middle East. Absolutely the most lunatic thing I've seen in foreign policy. And so, naturally, you don't want to punish your friends, right? Or the people you want to be your friends. So President Trump's going to impose some costs and consequences on the actors who are responsible for that. Now, what it's going to be, he has refused to say quite properly. I think we'll know pretty soon, though.
Mm-hmm. And Senator, the other pressing issue that I know has been confounding Americans for the last few years, of course, is the ongoing, seemingly never-ending war of attrition between Russia and Ukraine. Donald Trump is going to have much more clear objectives and prerogatives on that conflict as well, right? And it seems like even Russia is signaling that they understand that that war may be in its latter days once Trump takes the White House.
Yeah. Look, it was in our interests at the beginning of this to degrade the power of the Russian state under Putin. I wrote about it. We've talked about it on the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's happened on a strategic level. I mean, the Russians have failed in this, and our interests have been vindicated. Sweden and Finland are now in NATO. The Russian apparatus or military has been degraded. It's not in anybody's interest to continue this war. And Trump recognizes that. We don't need the biggest war since World War II going on in Eastern Europe. So an honorable peace would be one with a ceasefire along existing lines more or less. I mean, Putin's not going to agree to it if he doesn't get some additional territory. Commitments, which the Europeans should make to provide the funds to rebuild Ukraine, and then some kind of an effective guarantee of the borders that emerge from that agreement. And that's important also because we don't want Russia doing this again in the next few years. So how the Trump administration will manage that, I don't know. You know, I think I said on the show, people should not be surprised if Putin doesn't come to the table. If initially the president doesn't send additional aid to Ukraine. In other words, President Trump's going to use carrots and sticks. The carrot is, look, you can get an agreement, you can get a face-saving sort of way of ending the war, and this is taking a huge toll on Russia. The number of casualties, or on the other hand, he's going to say, or he's going to send the message, if you don't do that, things are going to happen you don't like. One of them, for example, stricter enforcement of secondary sanctions against various Russian entities, and Trump's people are good at that. So he's got to get both sides to the table. I think he can get Zelensky there. I mean, Zelensky's not going to have any choice. He's going to have to get Putin there. It's going to be fun to watch how he does it.
We're speaking to Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator from the great state of Missouri, chairman now of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. He's at Jim Talent on Twitter. And Senator, even though there's probably, I don't know, many dozens of problems we could discuss around the globe, those are the third one that comes to my mind. So the first one that comes to my mind is the ongoing hostage crisis and the situation in Israel. The second one that always comes to my mind is the Russia-Ukraine war. And then the third one, Congressman, which you and I and Chris have talked about a million times, but I think is also going to get addressed quickly in these first 100 days is China, right? Senator, China has been, they've kind of gotten a free ride throughout the Biden administration, haven't they? And I think they know that there's going to be a new sheriff in town as well. Talk about some of the things that Donald Trump's going to likely look at in regards to what we haven't been doing as regards to what is really a true existential threat, and that's the rising communist China.
Well, first of all, in his first term, the president dragged us into the 21st century where China was concerned. I mean, we had been basically facilitating, that had been our active policy, the rise of China for 25 years. Although, to be fair, Obama did have his pivot to Asia. I mean, the roots of that are in the latter stages of the Obama administration, but Trump energized it. He used the tools that he had and began reshaping the architecture of national security for this. I'll call it a competition with China, but it's really a low-grade conflict with them. So I expect to see them move quickly to strengthen short-term military deterrence, for example, stockpiling munitions. You know, if war were to break out, we'd have about a week's worth of basic munitions. I think they may try and include that in the reconciliation bill that they're going to pass. You're going to see nobody's been better than Trump at using the economic tools. And this, of course, is not just an economic thing, it's a national security thing. So he was very effective in doing that in the first term. I expect to see that again. And I think a rebuilding of the defense industrial base. His administration did the most comprehensive study of that we've had, I think, since Eisenhower. And that has to be done. Now, I want to caution your listeners, China is very powerful. This is not like dealing with Iran or Russia. They're basically aggressing against us in a number of domains, and you read about them: Chinese police stations in American cities, the balloon and maybe these drones, cyber warfare, all this stuff. And this is going to be a task that's going to last a number of years. And don't expect. I think President Trump's going to provide strong leadership, and he's not going to win that. He never promised I'll win that, like in 100 days. But he's going to get us back on the beam, and I think they're going to make a whole lot of progress and put us in a better position, much better position in 4 years than we are now.
Senator, besides Pete Hegseth, hopefully if and when he's confirmed, he's going to have his hands full getting the wokeatocracy, as I call it, and all the DEI initiatives out of our warfighting agencies known as the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. But what would you say? I mean, is there a critical need higher than the others? Is it our Navy? Is it our naval strength? Has that been the most debilitated over the last few decades, or what would you say?
Well, the most critical and difficult theory is the Indo-Pacific, and that's a maritime theater, also air and space, but maritime. And so, yes, for that reason, the Navy is probably the highest priority. I would say the highest priority, though, is to rebuild the defense industrial base. I'm not saying we should be an arsenal for democracy, but we need to be an arsenal for America again. And the Chinese have one shipyard that is bigger than all of our naval shipyards put together. That's a problem, Tim.
Wow.
And so, exactly. And we have a fragile defense industrial base. A lot of key things rely on, or key supplies, materials rely on sole suppliers. We can't surge the way we should be able to surge. And all this the result of decisions that were made, while I was there. This is one area where my hands are completely clean because I fought this tooth and nail. Trump began bringing us back. Remember the defense sequester I've talked about in the show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We got rid of that in the Trump administration, and they increased the defense top line by $100 billion, but which was good. But the problem is, money is not going to solve this all on its own. We have to be able to produce. So I think you're right. Hegseth is going to get rid of the woke stuff. And he obviously wants to. He's good at it. The president's going to be behind him. That needs to happen. That'll fix a lot of the recruitment and retention problems on its own. But it's the defense industrial base. We're going to need good service chiefs. Phelan's got a job. He's going to be the Secretary of Navy, and he's going to have to work 24/7. But again, this is what this administration is about. It's America's big, powerful, good, and we're going to start acting like it. And so I'm excited about it, Tim. I really am. I'm more optimistic than I've been in many years. We have huge problems, but as Reagan said at the end of his first inaugural, I'm going to be curious to see how Trump handles this. Reagan said, why shouldn't we dream big? After all, we are Americans. And that's the tone you notice that Trump is taking. So let's hear what he has to say in a week.
Senator, I was a final question for you about the cabinet nominees, and I have a short little clip here from someone who may not be on your Christmas card list, but she was in your old chamber there. Joey, if you could play number 9, and then we'll get Senator Talon's reaction on the backside of this.
Senator Elizabeth Warren released 72 questions that she plans to ask Mr. Hegseth tomorrow. Here are 2. Have you ever received any treatment for substance abuse or alcohol? That's the first one. And then she plans to ask, how many times have you been accused of sexually harassing or sexually assaulting another individual?
Senator, it seems like she's been reading from, page 6 of the local gossip column. I have not read very much about this at all. I think they tried this attack early on. Senator, are the Democrats grasping at straws at this point? Or are they trying to just take a scalp? I guess I should watch what I say when I'm talking about Elizabeth Warren there with that. But exactly. I don't know. This just seems kind of weak sauce to me. But what say you?
Well, you said, are they trying to take a scalp? And the answer is yes. And that's classic. And we have to be fair. You're in the minority in the Senate, president of the other party. You're gonna see what you can do to defeat a couple of his cabinet nominees. So they're going to try and grill Hegseth. I think he's going to handle all those questions really well. I think the ones that I'm going to watch for are the more serious people. All right, she's serious to a degree. But anyway, the people who are interested in how he is going to get the Pentagon to produce on these big issues we've been discussing. He's going to talk about getting rid of the woke, and I think he'll do a good job there. But how can we grow our shipyard capacity? There are going to be serious people on there asking questions about that, and I'm going to watch his answers there as well. But I think the answer to that is, if I were him, I would say, look, the Secretary of Defense doesn't manage the Pentagon directly, which is definitely true. He's like the CEO. He manages the people who do manage the Pentagon. So you got to get good service chiefs like Phelan. You got to make certain they have a plan that meets your priorities and the president's priorities. And then you got to hold them accountable for executing. And that's what I want to hear him say. That, look, failure on the battlefield is not an option. Well, neither is failure in running the Pentagon to produce the things our men and women need to defend us. And he's going to insist on that. You're going to be fair. You help these people to be successful in any way you can if you're the SecDef. But if they can't do it, you say to the president, we got to get some people who can do it. And that's the resolution I want to hear out of him. I think he's going to get confirmed, Tim, barring some major issue tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can start this job. He got a young guy. He's got a lot of energy. I'll help him in any way I can. And, I think he knows that. And we all got to hope he succeeds.
Fantastic. That's a great note to end on. Former U.S. Senator and Chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council, Jim Talent, will be covering all of these cabinet nomination fights and hopefully confirmations with Senator Jim Talent in the days and weeks ahead. Senator, thanks so much for all the time. Great speaking with you as always.
Yeah, you're welcome, Tim. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you soon. All right, it's 4:45 in the PM here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. We're going to be right back with some additional news to follow up on what Senator Talent was saying. Joe Biden says he's leaving Trump a strong hand to play in the United States of America, defending his record on, of all things, Afghanistan. I'll take that apart and more when we return. Speaker stump speech at 5:07. How is money walking and moving around the country? I'll explain that to you as well when we return here at 101.9, 94.1. The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The president may be alive, but he may not be the president.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. May see a few flurries Tuesday morning, temperatures in the low 20s, but then sunshine in the afternoon, a high of 27. It's a cold day. Some cold air is rushing in during the afternoon and setting us up for a really cold one Wednesday morning, a low of 7 Wednesday morning, a high of 29 with mostly sunny skies Wednesday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Allman Report.
Hey, Monday on the Allman Report, all the crazy, nutty stuff from around the weekend. You're going to love it. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman. Weeknights at 8 on News Talk STL.
You know what tomorrow is? You're like, yeah, it's January 14th. Well, you know what that means? It's 1 month until Valentine's Day. You're all saying, I haven't even paid off my Christmas bills yet. I'm still paying for Thanksgiving dinner. Hey, you know what, though? I've got your one-stop shop for you that will not break the bank and will still provide you a wonderful selection of wonderfully beautiful things for the beautiful and wonderful people in your life. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers does not mean Newstetter's Expensive Jewelers. You walk into Newstetter's, and the first thing they're going to say to you, they're not going to be pushing a bunch of junk and bunk on you. First of all, they don't sell any of that stuff. They have beautiful, wonderful, just magnificent things. They're going to say, what's your budget? What are you looking for? What general range? And that's what they're going to back into because you're the client, you're the customer. They want to make you happy and also the loved ones in your life. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers is found 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. Yeah, that's wowdiamonds.com. That's what people say when they see their incredibly gorgeous diamonds that they have in stock. Our neighborhood jewelry store, Newstetter's, is since 1961. Richard Newstetter. Yes, there's Newstetter's running Newstetter's, right? This is not some big, giant, big box store that, the people that started it a bazillion years ago no longer exist. Richard Newstetter works at the store still and has since 1961. Generations of Newstetters who take great pride in being right here in the St. Louis region and serving people in this region and well beyond with honest jewelry solutions for well over 50 years. You will experience that Newstetter's difference. Trust me. I've been experiencing it since long before they advertised on our station. My folks have been there many times. Chris and I have both been there. We know many friends of the station and beyond who have. It's a wonderful store with wonderful people with wonderful things, diamonds, engagement rings, hand engraved items, beautiful watches. I got one on right now. I got a little present from Newstetter's myself over the Christmas holiday. Pendants, earrings, gemstones, all jewelry repair. They do master engraving. Richard is a master engraver. He's one of the few remaining ones in the country. It's not a lost art here in St. Louis. He can build you, create you family heirlooms, legacy items that you will keep and treasure for generations. They're just 2 miles west of 270. And like I said, they're 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai.
Hey, it's Vic. Are you worried about rising taxes? Well, you're not alone. With government spending outpacing revenue, many Americans fear a tax hike is on the horizon. But here's the good news. You have options. Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management specializes in tax-efficient strategies for income planning, legacy, and growth. Chris knows your money will go to one of three places: the government, healthcare, or your family and charities. Shouldn't your loved ones come first? Don't let Uncle Sam be your biggest beneficiary. Take control of your financial future today. Visit serenitynowtax.com for your free copy of Chris's book, The New Holistic Retirement. Serenity Wealth Management, because you deserve peace of mind in retirement. Request your free book today at serenitynowtax.com. That's serenitynowtax.com to get your free copy of The New Holistic Retirement. That's serenitynowtax.com. Serenity Now with Chris Cooper.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors. Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention Newstalk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention Newstalk STL for 10% off.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Keep my hands on myself. Pick out dust them off, put them back up on the shelf.
Governor, you got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the
Why
call.
is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now. And it's to immediately get reimbursements, individual assistance, and to help you. I'm devastated for you. I'm so sorry, especially for your daughter.
Oh, is he greasy Gavin Newsom or what? I mean, just listen to that clip. It's just like dripping off of the gelled back hair. I mean, I love the fact that California mom challenged him on how we got here and what he's going to do about it. This is a guy with national ambitions. You know, did you all know that Jay Nixon, former governor of state of Missouri, you may have forgotten about him. He hasn't been around since he's working for a law firm now in St. Louis. He was governor when I was speaker. And myself, Tom Dempsey, the speaker, who was the Senate president at the time, Senator Tom Dempsey, and I, Peter Kinder back in the day, and Jay Nixon, we always used to battle with each other, you know, because he was governor and we were the Republican vanguard, you know, and Jay Nixon had designs on running for president. Yeah, he really did. And if you all remember those times, about 2012, 2013, when Jay Nixon was governor, he was in his first term, he started making, or no, maybe it was right after he got elected his second term. He started making plane trips on taxpayer-funded airplane. We used to call him King Air Jay, up to places like Iowa and New Hampshire. Yeah, he was planning to run for president. Now, I think Jay knew he wasn't going to be chosen president because his party, the Democratic Party, had already lurched way to the left. But I think he was hoping to be, you know, chosen for like a cabinet position or, you know, the way you get a cabinet position or the way you maybe get vice president is by running for president. You run for the top office and you hope for some sort of really fantastic silver or bronze medal. And who wouldn't turn that down? And then Ferguson happened. And after Ferguson happened, Jay Nixon was exposed for what a hollow lightweight he is, and his political career was ended. Is this going to be Governor Newsom's Afghanistan, his Ferguson, whatever, right? Is this going to be the crisis that he is not able to explain how it happened, right? Other than he'd have to admit left-wing progressive policies failed California, right? Cutting the fire department like the mayor did by $17.5 million, mismanaging their water as Gavin Newsom has. I mean, you've heard the fact that, don't you remember, folks, California had record rainfall over the last few years. Where did it all go? Well, they just let it dump in the Pacific Ocean. These are people that know they have water issues, and God gives them rain, and they just let it wash off into the Pacific Ocean instead of preserving it in, I don't know, reservoirs, like the Romans invented those things, a couple thousand years ago, and Gavin Newsom doesn't apparently know how to dig a swimming pool, much less a reservoir. So, this could be his Waterloo. And I don't take pleasure in it because the California people, as much as we make fun of California, they're suffering. And that's why the U-Haul index, which I'm going to talk about, and I bet you the U-Haul index next year is going to accelerate out of California. It's already bad enough. I'm going to explain to you, I'm going to show you with the receipts that this is not some crazy cockamamie right-wing fantasy dream that people are leaving blue states and going to red states. No, it's actually happening. U-Haul tracks this every single year. And for like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 25th year in a row, people are leaving failed blue big states and their failed big blue policies, and they're going to rockin' and rollin' red states. And Missouri needs to wake up, smell the coffee, and start getting on that gravy train. But we've been held back because we haven't had leadership at our top spot either. I'm hoping Governor Mike Kehoe changes that. Yeah, I'm live in Jefferson City. I'm going to talk about Jefferson City in the next segment, in the next hour as well. We've got Susie Moore. She's coming up. She's going to be joining us at 5:25. And, of course, I'll be doing the Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07. So Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07. Susie Moore with Red State Headlines at 5:25. And at 5:45, we'll make sure that we wrap up and tie up any knots with anything we may have missed. We'll prepare you for Larry Connors USA and more. Joey, any arts, entertainment, movie news we need to discuss maybe in that last segment we need to tell the peoples about?
I mean, I was at home just clearing out Netflix. I may have finished the first season of Netflix. I've finished all the episodes.
All of Netflix.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Joey, we'll have to talk about that. I'm a big streamer, and I like the episodic stuff and the dramas and the sci-fi stuff. And I've been watching some Dune Prophecy, so we'll have to talk a little bit about that at 5:45 as well.
Wonderful.
Chris Arps running all over Jeff City. I'll see if I can track him down in the break here. 5:07 Speaker Stump Speech. Susie Moore, 5:25. Joey V and I will break down everything you need to know arts, culture, and entertainment-wise at 5:45 and prepare you for Larry Connors USA. All of that coming up next here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store in Old Town St. Peters, where they have a huge selection of products and services for your yard and home, including a full line of lawn and garden products, a full line of products for animal care, and that includes anything from livestock to the family dog or cat. They'll fill any size propane tank for about half the price of a new one, and so much more. Visit them in St. Peters on 2nd Street, right behind the QT at 70 and Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, and check out all their products and services at oldtowncountrystore.com.
Southern Armory, your hometown gun store. Come and be more than just a customer. Southern Armory, we carry the best guns, holsters, knives, magazines, ammunition, and even food storage. Special orders are welcome. Southern Armory, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, 9901 Watson Road, and southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Whether you're purchasing your first firearm or adding to your collection at Southern Armory, you're more than a customer, you're part of the family. Follow Southern Armory on Facebook or at southernarmory.com.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Los Angeles is bracing for another round of hurricane-force winds as firefighters continue to battle deadly blazes that have killed at least 24 people and left parts of the city looking like a moonscape. Jeff Morrell, who's been rescuing animals displaced by the wildfire, says it's been challenging.
As long as they allow us to continue feeding animals, rescuing animals, and placing animals, I'll keep doing it. And then we also have to get animals back to their owners. So that's probably going to take place as soon as they lift the evacuation orders.
The National Weather Service's Los Angeles page screams particularly dangerous situation. It's a rare warning aimed at seeking attention before extreme wildfire risk is predicted to start in Southern California at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Americans face a massive tax increase at the end of this year unless the 119th Congress extends the current Trump tax cuts. Americans for Prosperity is launching an 8-figure nationwide campaign to inform voters they need to get involved. AFP Vice President Akash Shiguli says the issue is a little-known provision in the Trump tax cuts enacted back in 2017.
The individual side tax cuts and then some key business provisions for small businesses and others were set to expire at the end of 2025, which means that absent action from Congress and the president, Americans will see a massive tax hike at the end of the year. We want to make sure people are aware of the fact that that tax hike is coming if Congress doesn't act, and urge them to act to extend and build on those tax cuts.
Americans for Prosperity is seeking grassroots support nationwide. More information can be found on the website protectprosperity.com. On Wall Street, the Dow by 358 points, more at townhall.com.
So the new year is a great time to reconsider how we do things, like how to make things better in 2025. Like when it comes to the whole struggle of how to pay for your health care, people generally are not happy with the status quo, but there's good news. There's a much better option, and it's proven too. MediShare is refreshing. You can save thousands of dollars a year. Many save up to $500 a month, seriously, and you get to choose from a huge network of doctors and providers. And maybe the best part, and we know this from research on why people join MediShare, they love this. Instead of sending your money every month to a huge corporation that might fund all sorts of procedures or things you don't believe in, you're joining a faith-based network of people who actually care about each other. And like I said, that's refreshing. There is a better option. You don't have to do it the way you've always done it. You can make a change and start saving now. Here's the number. They're easy to talk to. Call 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE. 5.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. May see a few flurries Tuesday morning, temperatures in the low 20s, but then sunshine in the afternoon, a high of 27. It's a cold day. Some cold air is rushing in during the afternoon and setting us up for a really cold one Wednesday morning. A low of 7 Wednesday morning, a high of 29 with mostly sunny skies Wednesday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Piccadilly Palace, located in Union, Missouri. The ultimate family fun center is Piccadilly Palace. Call 314-860-6418 or visit piccadillypalace.com.
Larry Connors here. I'm heading to southern Italy on a tour of the most beautiful coastline in the world, the Amalfi Coast. 11 magical days in luxury with professionals from Conservative Tours. The cost, $54.88. That includes airfare from St. Louis. Call 888-733-9494 or go to conservativetours.com. Let's go to Italy this spring. conservativetours.com.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Congratulations to the awesome team at Connor Roofing for earning the 2024 National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction. Connor Roofing has now won back-to-back honors because they do outstanding work in all types of roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. We chose Connor Roofing without telling the owners, Rob and Kathy Connor. Their customer reviews are some of the best in the country. Please read them. Visit ConnorRoofing.com and request an estimate. Connor Roofing, you can count on Connor.
News, analysis, opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station. This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you could put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I wish Joe Biden all the best, but the fact is he has left us dumpster fire, not just at the border, but also with the economy. First of all, we know that prices are way too high for many Americans. We have to work every single day to stabilize prices for American families. But Shannon, everything that he's bragging about ignores the fact that he has added trillions and trillions of dollars to the federal debt during a time of peace. He has left us with bond yields, meaning how are we going to finance that debt? We have to sell Treasury bonds. And the Treasury bonds have gotten more expensive because of Joe Biden's policies. So you go issue after issue. Oil prices are now shooting through the roof in the final 2 months of Joe Biden's administration, in part because of decisions that Joe Biden has made over the last few weeks.
Frankly, he's left us a dumpster fire. I love watching J.D. Vance on the weekend shows, and he was on I think he was on Meet the Depressed yesterday. I think that's what that was from. And he just takes them not just to task, he takes them to the woodshed. And he did it once again. He does it with style, grace, aplomb, and he does it with a smile on his face and a song in his heart. He is a true happy warrior. He could be the future president of the United States. I think he's proven that already. He's the vice president, right? He's second in command. We'll see. That's a long time ahead. We got a lot of things to fix before we start thinking about what's going to happen in 2028. We got a lot to fix here in 2025. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You are listening to 1019 94.1. This is, of course, News Talk STL. I'm Tim Jones, former Speaker of the Missouri House. I'm back in my big house. I'm back in the people's capital here at the Missouri Capitol. We have statewide inauguration. That is the culmination of all the pomp and circumstance that always follows a gubernatorial year. That's what you call it when the governor's up for re-election, and then you have a bunch of statewide, and then you got all of the House, the entire House of Representatives, all 163 members re-elected or occupying new seats if people termed out or went their own way. And then, of course, you have about half the Senate that's new as well. So a lot of new faces, names, a lot of optimism here at the beginning of session. We'll see how long that lasts. It's always optimistic until it's not, until everything kind of devolves and runs off the rails. I hope that this year is different. I have told you time and time again my feelings about why the last 6 to 7 years have been a failure. It has not been. I will defend my conservative colleagues till the death, and I will tell you I'm 1,000% right about that. The establishment in the swamp, they want to blame it on conservatives. They want to blame the failure of Republican priorities on people that would like nothing more than to pass Republican priorities. You know how much sense that makes? That only makes sense in the backwards, upside down, inside out logic that is exhibited here in this beltway. We have this little mini beltway bubble here in the Jeff City swamp. No, the people that killed Republican priorities from initiative petition reform on down were people who were Republicans in name only or were doing the bidding of other masters. And I will tell you that one of the arch villains over the last 6 to 7 years is now thankfully termed out, gone from the building, although apparently now he's going to lobby former Senate President Caleb Rowden. Caleb Rowden single-handedly killed most of the top Republican priorities over the last many years. It wasn't Bill Eigel. It wasn't any other member of the Conservative Caucus or Freedom Caucus or whatever caucus was trumpeting, maybe pun intended, true Republican priorities. No, who wants those things to stop? The liberals, the rhinos, the people that bend the knee to the special interests and the lobbyists. That's what's happened here. Now, there are other people that would love to have some of those Republican priorities run off the rails. Some of them have R's after their names. Some of them I don't even know who they are yet. Because like I said, we have a bunch of new state reps and I pretty much know most of the Senate. It's kind of funny. A House Speaker knows most of the Senate now better. But there's, 163 people running around the House. And I'll get to know all of them over the next few weeks and months and tell you all about some of the bright spots and stars. But I believe the Senate is going to start off on better stead. I'm here in the beautiful confines of Senator Nick Schroer's office. He's got this great office. It's actually former Senator Eigel's office. And there's two beautiful rooms downstairs, second floor of the Capitol. Come visit Senator Schroer sometime. I know he'd love to see you. And I'm up in, they've got this little crow's nest. They built this little loft up here many, many, many decades ago. And it's been converted into office space. And so I'm hanging out here. I'm out of everybody's way and broadcasting live from the Capitol. So it's great to be here today. So yeah, I think the attitude in the Senate, at least at the beginning, until there's reason to believe otherwise, is hope for optimism. Now in the House, they kind of got a bit of a wonky start. They had a speaker's challenge. A lot of people have asked me about that. Justin Sparks is a very good friend. He's the vice chair of the Freedom Caucus. I'm the state director for the Freedom Caucus. That's under the auspices and umbrella of the State Freedom Caucus Network. They just launched their 13th Freedom Caucus today in Maryland, of all places. Yeah, we have 2 Freedom Caucuses in blue states, one in Illinois, one in Maryland. What do they do there? They try to keep the total crazy from happening. There's plenty of left-wing liberal lunacy that happens in Illinois and Maryland, but because of the Freedom Caucus, and I can tell you, Illinois, over the last few years, they've exposed some of the worst crazy that they've embarrassed Democrats into not pursuing some of those things. So that's the purpose in a blue state. In a red state, you're supposed to be the conservative conscience. You're supposed to be the North Star, and that's what Freedom Caucuses, conservative caucuses are. And in the House, they elected John Patterson, the majority leader, to be speaker. Well, John Patterson's got a horrible voting record when it comes to Republican priorities. John Patterson voted against pro-life bills. He voted against the anti-transgender cult bills. He voted against the Save Women's Sports Act. He said that Amendment 3 was the law of the land initially a few months ago. And then Justin Sparks changed the narrative. And Justin would have been extremely happy and humbled to have been elected speaker, but that's not the only reason that he initiated that speaker's challenge. He initiated that speaker's challenge to wake people, the F up, so they don't ever elect someone with that horrible voting record. I'm not saying John Patterson's a horrible person. I know him. I've known him for almost a decade. He is a great guy. I'm glad he runs as a Republican, but he hasn't voted that way. Now, maybe his mind has been changed by this challenge. He already has changed his position on several issues since Justin Sparks challenged him in the status quo. And so that's a good thing. And that was one of the other reasons Justin Sparks initiated that speaker's challenge, was to say, stop electing people that aren't true conservatives. Look, John Patterson has a place in the Missouri House. Maybe it shouldn't have been as majority leader or speaker, but he's going to be the speaker for the next 2 years. But now people are going to be watching him very carefully and closely and saying, are you going to do Republican speaker type stuff like cut taxes and protect children and push back against the wokeitocracy and dismantle, Amendment 3 as much as you can, because it's not the will of the people. The people did not know that there was a transgender super right in that proposal of Amendment 3. If they did, shame on them. But I don't believe most people did. And it barely passed, by the way. Are we going to protect our Second Amendment rights? Are we going to make sure parents and children have the ultimate options in school choice land? So those are the kind of things that we're going to be looking for. And I think the Justin Sparks challenge was healthy. I think it was a way to wake everyone up. I think it was a way to challenge the system. Government is always in need of reform. I don't care who's running it, Republicans or Democrats. And that's why I continue doing what I'm doing here on News Talk STL. Here in some of the many projects I do, doing contract work for Grover Norquist, the great Grover Norquist of Americans for Tax Reform, American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, the State Freedom Caucus Network, and supporting so many of the happy warrior freedom fighters who I'm now proud to say and humbled to say and had the privilege to say I helped them be elected to office. It's a team effort, and I'm happy to be a part of the team. Nick Schroer is going to be having a heavy legislative load. Maybe we'll try to get him on the air tomorrow to kind of give us a recap of where we've been and where we're going. After all the pomp and circumstance, the festivities, the partying, and the camaraderie and the fellowship tonight, yes, they'll finally get down to work here tomorrow in Jefferson City, and the session will conclude in the third week of May. So we got a lot to go and a lot to look forward to. 5:25, we have to look forward to Susie Moore of Red State joining us. She's at Smoozy Q on Twitter. She's deputy managing editor at Red State, and she is frequent host, contributor, and content provider here at News Talk STL. We'll talk to her at 5:25 about all the big Red State headlines of the day. We'll cover all of the hopeful end. I mean, they seem like they're trying to engage in Trump lawfare until the bitter end. Jack Smith resigning over the weekend before Donald Trump canned him. We'll talk about that with Susie Moore, and she's been covering that like white on rice. And we'll talk about the cabinet nominations that we didn't get a chance to dig too deeply into yet. And we'll talk about the inauguration of Donald J. Trump next Monday at high noon Eastern in the Big Swamp in Jefferson City. I'm here today. Chris Arps, he's actually here at the Capitol, but due to the fact we don't have our full setup here, Nick is so kind to convert part of his little office here, his beautiful office here, into Studio Schroer. We did it all last year, if you remember, and we had like a 3-mic setup, and we couldn't quite get that all done in time. So I'm on my little travel kit here. Hopefully it sounds uber fantastic. And Chris and I will be back. Chris, I think, will be back in the studio tomorrow, and I'm planning to broadcast from here again as well. So we'll be back in the cell. Joey V is here as well. Joey, how am I sounding today? How's the old hamster wheel spinning? Are we all good?
You're sounding wonderful. And I noticed that my friend from the weekend show that I produced, the Right Mind Show, Todd Showalter, he stopped by. He said hello to you. He rubbed the Rush Limbaugh statue for good luck. And if you need another crazy guest that could go off the rails, get him on if you want to, throw this show for a loop.
Every single time. Yes. Joey reminded me, I ran into Todd and his beautiful wife in the hallway this afternoon, along with a ton of So Joey, I ran into a bunch of people. I saw already I've seen Mike Archer, the newly minted St. Louis County councilman. He's up here today. Ran into our friend Renee Artman from the St. Louis County Central Committee. Ran into a fellow by the name of Dr. Sam Alexander, who's a good friend of mine from kind of the mid-southern Missouri area. He's going to be running for state senate in 2026 in an open seat. So ran into him. Chad Hansen. Can't miss Chad Hansen, Joey. And he's up here. And he's up here with some friends, and we're going to hang out with him later. It's just a really great time. If you've never been to an inauguration, if it's too late for you to come this time, they'll have a legislative ball, I think, in 2 years, and then we'll have another gubernatorial ball in 4 years. So if you weren't able to make it up today, or maybe you're listening to me on the way, please stop me, say hello to me in one of the hallways this evening. I'll be sticking around for a while, mixing and mingling with the folks. And if you can't make it this time, come next time. Oh, who else did I see? Oh, Debbie McFarland, or Debbie and Dave McFarland. Frank Catanzaro, St. Louis Young Republicans. He, of course, is chief of staff to my state senator, Ben Brown. So a lot of good folks running around all over the place up here. It's all good. Joey, award shows. We talked at length about the Golden Globes, and we're going to return to some arts, culture, movies, and current events in 5:45 before we wrap things up. Joey, the next big award show is it the Screen Actors Guild, the SAG Awards? Is it the Emmys? Do you care about either one of those? Or are you just raring for the Oscars, the Academy Awards?
The Oscars are supposed to be announced on the 17th. I've been keeping an eye because they released a short list of certain categories like best song and documentary and special effects. So I've been keeping an eye on the short list, but they're going to narrow everything down, announce the actual nominees on the 17th. So that's the thing I'm excited about.
Oh, that's fantastic indeed. All right. Hey, without further ado, speaking of Chad Hansen and Hansen's Tree Service, they're the sponsors of the daily Monday through Friday Speaker Stump Speech heard around this time. As we talk about the dumpster fire that J.D. Vance just did, that Joe Biden's created, some of the states have weathered that storm better than others. You can guess likely which ones they are. Where does Missouri play in all of this? How can we be and do better? I'm going to break it all down for you. Pursuant to the U-Haul Growth of States of 2024, that's the subject matter of today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker Stump Speech, sponsored by Hansen's Tree Service at hansenstree.com.
The nattering nabobs of negativity up on the corporate media news networks, the propaganda press, as I often call them. They hate this. They hate this index. They never talk about it. Or if they do, They just breeze past it and then dump it into the circular file of 13. But those of us in common sense land, happy warrior, freedom and liberty land, we love this U-Haul index, and you can find it pretty much anywhere. I found it. There's lots of stories about it because it was just released a week or two ago. And I found this at, I think, businesswire.com. And this is from U-Haul. This is not from, look, I think the conservative think tanks, many of whom I work for, are the best and brightest in the land. But of course, the left always says, that's just a bunch of right-wing propaganda. It's not. But, it's really hard to argue with U-Haul, isn't it? I'm showing this on our screen right now. U-Haul does nothing more, folks. This is simple and it's complex in its beauty. U-Haul does nothing more than rank all the states, all 50 states, by their net gain or loss of one-way movers last year. So the net gain or loss of where people are going and where people are moving to, courtesy of one of the biggest movers in the country, U-Haul. I think they would know something about it. The trend of southern states, according to Business Wire here, talking about the U-Haul index, netting larger numbers of one-way U-Haul customers continued during 2024 with, for the first time ever, the Palmetto State, which I love, and I know Chris and Becky Arps do as well. My wife, Suzanne, does too. South Carolina topping the U-Haul growth index for the first time ever. Guess who experienced the greatest net loss of do-it-yourself movers? Yes, crazy. We just witnessed it light itself on fire. California, horribly tragic. I'm not making fun of it. But, Mike, how much more can Californians put up with? Well, they're already leaving, and this is probably going to accelerate that. California experienced the greatest net loss of do-it-yourself movers and U-Haul equipment and ranks 50th in the country as far as who moved out the most. Get this, for the 5th consecutive year. Growth rankings are configured by each state's net gain or loss of customers utilizing one-way U-Haul equipment in a calendar year. That is compiled from over 2.5 million one-way U-Haul truck, trailer, and U-Box moving container transactions. That's a lot of people driving a lot of vehicles. State-to-state transactions from the past year reaffirm customer tendencies that have been pronounced for some time, said John J.T. Taylor, U-Haul International President. Migration to the Southeast and the Southwest continues as families gauge their cost of living, job opportunities, quality of life, and other factors that go into relocating to a new state. Out-migration remains prevalent for a number of markets across the Northeast, the Upper Midwest, the Rust Belt, and the West Coast, particularly California. All right. Without further ado, you want to hear the chart numbers, don't you? This is not going to be a surprise. Let's do the bad news first. Let's do the bottom 10, okay? So 40 through 50. You can probably guess who most of these are. I guess that would be the bottom 11, right? Because 40 would be a 0. But the bottom 11 states, where the most people have left. Number 40 is Colorado. Big blue state governor. Although Colorado doesn't do as bad as most blue states because their governor's not as horrid, but they've got a lot of California in them now in Colorado. 41, Connecticut. No surprise there. 42, Maryland. Yep. 43, Michigan. Maybe they'll turn things around now that they flip some legislative chambers back to Republican hands. Louisiana, they had a Democratic governor until recently. Now I bet you they're going to move up in this index. Illinois, neighbors to the east, 45th. 46th is Pennsylvania. 47th, the once mighty failed Empire State of New York. New Jersey, number 48. Number 49, Massachusetts, otherwise known as Massachusetts. And number 50, the once mighty, still beautiful, but definitely delusional state of California. Those are the bottom 10. Guess who's in the top 10? No surprises here either. Where's everybody going in the country? How is money walking and moving? Why, where, and how? Number 10, Idaho. Yes, they've made some significant advancements in, I would argue, conservative philosophies. Number 9, Utah is a jobs juggernaut. Number 8, Indiana. Indiana is a success story here in the Midwest. They turned things around because of strong-willed Republican governors. Number 7, the only blue state in this top 10, Washington. Guess what Washington has? Zero income tax. They're a zero income tax state. That's why they're in the top 10. Number 6, Arizona. Number 5, Tennessee. Often talk about them. Number 4 is Florida. North Carolina, number 3. Texas, number 2. South Carolina, the Palmetto State number 1. You know what most of these states have in common? Almost all of them, the grand majority, are low tax or no income tax states, and they deploy worker freedom, right to work, and universal school choice. There's a lot of commonality there. That's why they're at the top. That's why the big blue states are at the bottom. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today. Well, there you have it. Not a lot of surprises. Joey, how about we take a quick break here? And Joey V will pot up Susie Moore. She'll join us next. We're going to talk about red state headlines, prepare ourselves for the inauguration. Is the Trump lawfare over? Will it continue to the very last minute, the very last day of January 20th at 11:59 a.m.? We'll talk to Smoozy Q at Smoozy Q on Twitter, Susie Moore next here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Somebody at the White House has been smoking the devil's lettuce.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. May see a few flurries Tuesday morning, temperatures in the low 20s, but then sunshine in the afternoon, a high of 27. It's a cold day. Some cold air is rushing in during the afternoon and setting us up for a really cold one Wednesday morning. A low of 7 Wednesday morning, a high of 29 with mostly sunny skies Wednesday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
What citizen wouldn't want to make America great again?
Live and local.
You lose, you Dixon notch. Yeah. You lost America. I saw it etched on coins up here.
This is News Talk STL.
We're going to have two lawyers talking to each other in a minute. Let me tell you about a third one, Civia Law. Todd Civia at Civia Law, standing by to help you through all of life's challenges and transitions. What is Todd Civia and all of his fine attorneys at Civia Law practice in? Some of the most important practice areas that affect families, businesses, and individuals. That would be estate planning and elder law, special needs, real estate, business, and personal injury. Yeah, estate planning, they do it all. Wills, trusts, powers of attorney. And get this, unlike most law firms you're going to hear from, they're going to be like, yeah, we'll get back to you eventually, maybe this year, maybe next. Todd Civia is going to turn documents around in 2 weeks or less from the initial sit-down appointment. What an incredible guarantee that is. You know, when you do an estate plan, especially a trust plan, that can help avoid probate. You can keep more money in your family's pocketbooks instead of Uncle Sam's. Did you know that veterans benefits is a niche area of law as well? Many veterans I know listen to our station every single day. Did you know there's a lot of veterans benefits out there you may not even be aware of? Todd Civia and Civia Law, they specialize in veterans benefits. Make sure you're receiving all that you should for all your fantastic service to our great nation. Civia Law can be found at civialaw.com. That's SIVIA, civialaw.com, 833-995-WILL, 833-995-WILL. You business owners, Todd Civia can help you from soup to nuts, from business formation through any issues you may have. God forbid litigation. He can help you with that too. He can help you with eventually what we all want to do, right? Build up a business and then sell that business or transfer the assets to the next generation. Todd Civia can help you with that. He specializes in business law. The offices, Todd Civia has multiple offices all up and down the Interstate 70 corridor from Western Illinois all the way through Eastern Missouri. There is likely a Civia Law office somewhere near you. Call Todd Civia today to help you through all of life's transitions and challenges. 833-995-WILL, civialaw.com. That's civialaw.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-6766. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Ackerman Toyota is #1 in sales for 2024. That is 2 years in a row. It's really no surprise. Ackerman has the largest customer lounge where you can relax, Take your time choosing new or premium pre-owned. Ackerman at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 2 years in a row. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
This Susie Moore segment is brought to you by AMF Electric. For all of your residential, commercial, and industrial electrical services, visit amfelectric.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Have some breaking political news for you. Moments ago, Florida Judge Eileen Cannon has officially paved the way for at least the partial release of Special Counsel Jack Smith's final report. This move comes after a bid to block that effort by Trump's co-defendants. Well, now the DOJ can release the portion of that report dealing with the 2020 election. Additionally, Cannon will hold a hearing on Friday to go over plans to present the classified doctrine section of the report to members of Congress. You know, Trump's attorneys say that this should not happen. They fought against it happening. But now, because of Judge Cannon's ruling, at least a part of that will be released.
What does that mean? What does that mean for the present? What does it mean for the future of this ridiculous, insane leftist lawfare? Let's talk to our next guest about that and so much more.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
As she does every Monday afternoon around this time, Susie Moore at Smoozy Q on Twitter X joins us once again. Deputy Managing Editor, Red State, redstate.com, and of course, the host of the More to the Point commentary and frequent content contributor in many ways, shapes, and forms here at News Talk STL. Susie, how you doing this evening? Hope you're staying warm.
I am staying warm. I'm staying busy and warm.
Very good indeed. Susie, all right. Bring us up to speed on where we are with all this Trump lawfare. First, let's talk about Jack Smith. He resigned. Praise Jesus, Susie, and I mean that in all sense of the word. I'm not taking the Lord's name in vain. I'm seriously happy and thanking God for it. He resigned yesterday. What was that all about? Did he not want to get canned, or is his job done here? What a job it was, right?
Yeah, he had signaled a couple of weeks ago that he would be resigning prior to the new administration coming in. Obviously, were he to not resign, he'd be canned on day number one, so it was kind of pointless anyway. But he also, I think, was taking the position that his work was more or less done because with Trump having been reelected, the DOJ has, for now, elected to kind of let go of the classified documents case and the 2020 election case against him federally. And so there was really no more role for Jack Smith to play.
So, all right. So the cases he was handling are all gone, right? And I don't believe they can be resurrected, or
no, that's not, no, they can be. They were dismissed. Well,
okay. Dismissed without prejudice.
Yeah, the one in D.C. was dismissed by the DOJ without prejudice, which means they could resurrect it at some point. They've basically said we're not going to pursue it because of the fact that he's going to be the president, so we don't want to, continue on the ongoing lawfare against the chief executive of the branch that we're a part of. So that one was without prejudice. The one in Florida is a little different because in that one, Judge Cannon ruled that Smith was unconstitutionally appointed. And that issue kind of nullified the case as to Trump. Well, it nullified the case altogether, but that issue is up on appeal. But in the meantime, they've stopped pursuing Trump in it, but he has two co-defendants in that case. So their part of it is up on appeal before the 11th Circuit.
So we're going to continue to follow this into the new year and see how that
ends.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So Susie, so for all intents and purposes, given the fact that Donald Trump's going to be the president for the next 4 years, and then will no longer be a political threat to the left or the establishment. He can't run for president a third time, despite what some of them have, they think that Trump's never going to leave the White House. He's going to be King Trump or something. He will. Yeah, he will have a peaceful transition of power in 4 years to whoever occupies that next. For all intents and purposes, because he's not a political threat any longer, they're not going to resurrect these cases back, do you think, right?
I think the likelihood of them doing so is very small, but it's not, it's not zero. And because of that, that's one of the arguments against them going ahead and releasing this report from Jack Smith, because normally a special counsel will draft a report to the attorney general of their investigation and findings. But in this instance, that's all the material, that's all the grand jury stuff, that's everything that the prosecution puts together without really being cross-examined in any way. And to put that all into a report and then release that to the public potentially taints any jury pool that would down the road be hearing a case involving Donald Trump.
So let's talk a little bit more about this report. And by the way, folks, Susie has just written about this matter. There's an article up by Susie at redstate.com. Judge Cannon rules on whether DOJ may release Jack Smith report. Susie, have we, I'm sorry if I've missed something. Have we seen any parts of this report yet, or has the ruling just happened and so now something is going to come out next?
We've not seen any of them yet, unless they've come out in the past couple of minutes. So last week, Judge Cannon basically put a stop, an injunction, or she enjoined the DOJ from releasing either part of the report. And the report comes in two parts. The first part has to do with the 2020 election, the case that was brought in D.C. The second part has to do with the classified documents issue, the case that was brought in Florida. She put a hold on it all and said, we need to decide if this, can or should be released. And so everything was kind of put on ice for a few days. That got taken up to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit said no, the report should be able to be released, or we're not going to enforce this stay, is what they said.
Okay.
So then it kicked it back to Judge Cannon, and today she ruled, well, these two co-defendants aren't part of that first case, and they really aren't part of Volume 1. So I'm not going to say they can't release Volume 1. We're going to have a hearing on Friday as to whether they can release Volume 2. So in theory, Volume 1 could come out tonight or tomorrow, or the co-defendants could appeal the decision back up to the 11th Circuit, and the 11th Circuit could look at the issue on the merits and decide whether or not the report should be released. It's convoluted. It's crazy. Every time I try to sit down and write out how to explain it all, I realize that it's fruitless, because it's just going to sound like just an insane back and forth sort of thing. But it's a lot of legal wrangling over whether or not these reports are going to be released publicly. And there are arguments as to why they shouldn't be. I mean, there are arguments on both sides of it, to be honest. But it seems to me like the main reason they want to release them is to damage Trump and anybody associated with him, as opposed to, effect justice.
Folks, we're speaking to Susie Moore. She is deputy managing editor at Red State, redstate.com, and also a frequent content contributor in many ways here at News Talk STL. Susie, what's the point of all this? I'm asking you to speculate and surmise. Is this just one last shot across the bow for the failed, largely left-wing driven lawfare against Donald Trump to try to, smear him in the public eye as he takes the presidency for the second time?
It's that. I mean, they're couching it as, and I have to, if I'm being intellectually honest, if the shoe were on the other foot and this were about Joe Biden on his way into office, I think we would be saying, hey, look, we the taxpayers paid for this investigation. We paid for this special counsel. We should be able to see what the results of that are. So I think there's an argument there. But I also think that because there's ongoing cases against his co-defendants, and then there's people that are unindicted co-conspirators in the DC case that have criminal cases pending against them in, for instance, Arizona and Georgia and Michigan over the fake elector scheme, this could impact them as well. So there are due process arguments for those other people. It's not just about Donald Trump. It's about those other people and whether it now is the appropriate time to release the report, as opposed to after the criminal cases have been resolved and there's no, worry about it tainting a jury pool anymore.
All right. Well, time will tell, and I'm sure we'll be talking about those reports when we get the disclosure on them. Susie, you got another piece up, and Susie, it's horrible to maybe to use this word, but the gaslighting that's coming out of California is just unbelievable. And now that everybody is finger pointing and trying to pass the buck and act like, this was all either somebody else's fault, or actually these are not the droids you're looking for. No, everything's been handled so well throughout these California wildfires, which nobody believes. But you wrote an article that was published yesterday. The FEMA administrator, Criswell, on Face the Nation, I think I saw part of this interview. So FEMA administrator, Joe Biden's FEMA administrator, Criswell, on Face the Nation on the LA wildfires yesterday, the quote of the year thus far, and I know the year is young, is, I think that they were very prepared. With a straight face, she said that?
She did. She was asked that by Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation, and it was in the context of a larger question. But, she said, about all the accusations about the, being ill prepared, and those were her exact words. I think they were very prepared. I'm not sure who the they is she's talking to about or what she was looking at, but I think it's very difficult to make the argument that the officials, both local and state level in California and in Los Angeles, were very prepared for this, because we've seen instance after instance of them dropping the ball. Could they have prevented the fires from happening? Probably not. Could they have prevented the Santa Ana winds from blowing like crazy? No. But there are mitigations and things that they could have been doing and had in place that could have lessened the damage done, possibly saved lives. And, we've seen multiple failures, but whether it's the fact that, the fire hydrants, the water pressure wasn't up enough so that they were, adequately able to pump water, the one reservoir that they said was full, but it hasn't been full for years. Numerous evacuation notifications that have gone out as in error, confusing people, the lack of giving people evacuation routes and directing traffic so that people had like a orderly, safe way to evacuate the areas they had to evacuate. There's all kinds of failures, human failures, governmental failures here. And for her to say that they were very prepared is just ridiculous.
I mean, Susie, some of them have acted like they've never heard of a wildfire in California before, right? That's like saying, that's like us being shocked about flooding or tornadoes here in the Midwest, in the heartland, right? And so, Susie, of course, then they want to lurch to, climate change. But Susie, all of that should fall on deaf ears, because I found a chart the other day, a 100-year chart that showed that wildfire damage was actually significantly higher back in the 1930s, long before the Chevy Tahoe and the Cadillac Escalade and gas stoves. We've actually progressed greatly towards fighting wildfires, but wildfires happen all the time in California. And when you're slashing fire department budgets by nearly $20 million, and you're focused more on DEI training and recruitment, maybe that should be viewed as a causation of this versus whether or not you want to gesticulate about climate change. What say you?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be. And, here's the thing that's crazy. Okay. Think about the amount of toxins and CO2 that have been spewed into the air over the past week because of the fire. Right. And the fact that they were allowed to grow out of control. I mean, that kind of negates any efforts that California has made forever and ever as far as, getting pollution under control. And it has to do with their policies. Instead of doing controlled burns and clearing through brush and making sure the water supplies were adequate, it is like they wanted to pretend like these fires were never going to happen. And now that they have, they're just throwing up their hands and shrugging like, well, wasn't a whole lot we could do about it because this horrible climate change that we can't control the fires. We can't get them under control, but we can control the climate if we just do X, Y, and Z and spend $1 gazillion in this direction.
Yeah, truly indeed. Folks, are speaking to Susie Moore with Red State, redstate.com. Susie, Red State got any special coverage planned for the next 7 days as Donald Trump prepares to ascend the inaugural podium next Monday?
We absolutely do. The Senate confirmation, the committee hearings are starting tomorrow.
Yes.
With Pete Hegseth and who else is tomorrow? Doug Collins got pushed back. But there's 2 tomorrow, and then there's a bunch on Wednesday. We're going to be live blogging those at the site, so there'll be live coverage of those. And then there'll also be, of course, articles and write-ups on what was going on there. So there'll be a lot of focus on that, particularly, I think, tomorrow with the Hegseth hearing. I think there was a procedural vote tonight in the Senate on the Lake and Riley Act, so we're going to be watching to see if that actually gets passed through the Senate this week. And obviously the preparations for the big inauguration next weekend, and then Monday, it's the big day.
Fantastic. And I know you'll be here covering it with all of us all here. Susie, have a great week ahead, and we'll look forward to speaking with you next Monday afternoon.
Thanks, Tim. Have a great evening.
You too as well. That's the great Susie Moore at SmoozyQ on Twitter X. Oh, my goodness. Joey and I have one final segment left together. Then we're going to turn you over to Larry Connors USA, followed by the Allman Report and Jamie Allman at 8:05. Larry Connors at 6:05. Jamie Allman at 8:05. We're going to be back with one jam-packed segment. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to talk Oscars, Academy Awards, what to expect in Jefferson City after all the pomp and circumstances is done, and as Susie said, what to expect in Washington, D.C. over the next week. Lots to talk about. Keep it right here. One more final segment here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, live from the Jefferson City Swamp, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. May see a few flurries Tuesday morning, temperatures in the low 20s, but then sunshine in the afternoon, a high of 27. It's a cold day. Some cold air is rushing in during the afternoon and setting us up for a really cold one Wednesday morning, a low of 7 Wednesday morning, a high of 29 with mostly sunny skies Wednesday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
How bad is California's left-wing government, and what are the lessons we should apply here? The fire and its victims tell the story. We're going to hear from one of them on Tuesday.
Morning starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
Hey, Chris Arps from Royal Banks, Missouri, a full-service, locally owned and operated independent community bank. Royal Banks has some of the highest financial ratings in St. Louis for stability and strength. They also offer 17 convenient banking locations throughout St. Louis, St. Charles, Granite City, Jerseyville, Hannibal, and Rawls County. Royal Banks also have over 200 ATMs across the Midwest to give you free access to ATM transactions and withdrawals. Royal also offers convenient interactive teller machines, or ITMs, that will connect you with the banker virtually and in real time. As a customer of Royal Banks of Missouri, you'll find that their personal service is second to none. Learn more about Royal Banks of Missouri by visiting them on the web at royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank for your community.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Try to find my stride, but I trip and I fall.
So you met with President Trump this week along with your colleagues. Did you have a chance to speak with your colleagues? Do you believe you have the votes in the Senate to actually confirm all of his nominees?
Look, I hate to count my chickens before they hatch, but yes, I do. I think that they need to go through the hearing process. They're going to get beat up by the legacy media and the left as well, but I think the votes are there. And as I've interviewed these people one-on-one, they've been great communicators. They're great leaders. They're very accomplished. Yes, some of them are outside the box, but I do think we have the votes.
Well, that's great news indeed. I think that was one of our U.S. senators talking about the cabinet nominations, which begin tomorrow. Yeah, I think Pete Hegseth. And who did Susie say, Joey, was the second one that was up? I've already forgotten.
I've forgotten as well. I'll look it up.
Yeah, there's a couple coming up over the week ahead. Hey, it is 5:47 in the PM. We only got a few minutes left here. And then I'll be signing off, putting on I got my tux, actually. I brought my tux up. I got to squeeze into that every few years or so. And then we'll be hitting the ball. We got the governor's ball tonight. Everybody's in their finery and their finest. And I'm in State Senator Nick Schroer's office. He's on the second floor of the Capitol. Come visit him sometime. He'd love to see all you all, whether you're from the senatorial district in the great city, great county of St. Charles or not. And he's kind enough to let me broadcast from here. Studio Schroer, as we call it. His wonderful wife and daughters are here as well. And if you're looking on the camera, well, there's Nick carrying a big plate of something or other. How you doing there, Senator?
I cut my own
fruit.
Yeah, he did cut his own fruit. Look at that here. Put that in there. There you go.
It's a
there
nice,
he is.
It's a nice fruit tray.
That's what we're eating here. No, we got a lot of meat as well, but we got to have something for the vegans in our lives. So there we have it. We're gonna wrap up things here in a minute, but I wanted to ask Joey. Doug Collins. Yeah, Doug Collins is this week as well. Joey, I wanted to look at the Facebook feed. By the way, folks, we stream every single day on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, Rumble, and Instagram. And the Facebook feed, many of you on tonight. First of all, Joey always puts up this awesome meme featuring Chris and I in some fantastic pose or position. Some are more entertaining than others. They're all fantastic. Papa Bear Popcorn, Joey. That was the inspiration for today's photo, which you can find where? Pretty much anywhere, right? Where you post these things?
YouTube, Facebook, everywhere.
Papa Bear Popcorn. It's a very good meme today. You have to get on the streaming devices to check that out. We got David is on there as well. He thought that my mentioning going after Hegseth's scalp in relation to Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren was fantastic. Yeah, Dave, sometimes the stuff just slips out, and that's when Jeff Allen's most worried. Jason is on there as well. We got Linda on there. We've got, she says, great show today. Thank you so much, Linda. And many others. So thanks for listening to us and watching us. Joey also mentioned in our conversation here that there's so many comments here, I lost it. Joey, you had a comment about when the announcements of the nominations for this year's Academy Awards are. You actually posted that. Now I can't find it.
Yeah, this was breaking news today. I had no idea. I just looked up the date. I thought the Oscar nominations, they were supposed to be on the 17th. They were just announced that it's being pushed back to January 23rd because of the wildfires.
Oh, of course. Now, Joey, will that production be? I'm not very familiar with LA. I've mainly been to Southern California. I've been to Southern California. I've been to San Diego many times. And then I've been to Santa Barbara a couple times, which I know is like more Northern California. So I've never really been like in the middle part. So Joey, do they do the Academy Awards in the same theater all the time? Isn't there a famous theater they do these
Dolby
every year?
They do it in the Dolby Theater.
Okay.
And the date for the official Oscar date hasn't been pushed back. It's still March 2nd, but there was like a big luncheon that was supposed to happen on Tuesday, February 10th. That's been canceled. And then they do a technical award ceremony, and that date is up in the air now.
And is the area where that theater is affected at all, or is it okay, or do you have any idea?
I'd have to look it up. I know that's, the Hollywood Walk of Fame type area. Everywhere I've seen on fire has been more residential. I haven't seen how close it's gotten to the Grauman's Chinese Theater and the Dolby Theater.
Yeah, like the downtown area. There's probably not a whole lot of brush, right, in downtown LA, but so hopefully everything's okay there. But we will wait and see for sure. So that's the next big show. Now, you did watch the Golden Globes, right, Joey? You did watch those?
Yeah, I sure did. Watched it live.
You gonna watch any of the other shows, or are we just waiting for the Academy Awards at this point?
I don't really keep up with anything else. The Golden Globes were interesting because we had that local comedian, Nikki Glaser. She was hosting, and then people usually get real drunk during the Golden Globes. So that's always fun to see how crazy everyone gets. And then in the past, Ricky Gervais is hosting. He gets really mean. And since Nikki Glaser is a professional roaster, I was wondering how mean she would get. I don't think any of these other award shows have that much excitement usually.
How did she do in general? She's St. Louis native, Nikki Glaser, who hosted the Golden Globes this year.
Yeah, she didn't do too bad. One joke that had me in tears was that the after party isn't going to be as fun because P. Diddy is in jail. But don't worry, because Stanley Tucci's he's taking care of the freak offs, and he's bringing all the olive oil instead of baby oil. And I thought that was a good zinger right there. And then also she did this countdown, a tally board actually, of who was thanked during the speeches. And of course, cast and crew had 11 thanks so far in the program at that point. And Mom had 3, and then God had 0. And she said, yep, that makes sense for a godless town like LA.
Oh, well played. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she had something in there. You know what, Joey? The best comedians, right? Equal opportunity offenders, right? Take a turn at everyone.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
Very good indeed. And we were going to talk. That's right. We were going to talk streaming. So you basically cleared out your entire Netflix catalog over the weekend, huh?
Well, I was snowed in with the lady finally, because, last week I was actually in the hotel across the street 3 of the days last week just because it was so dangerous to even drive home. So I was glad to spend some time with her. And so we just cuddled up and we watched a bunch of movies this past weekend. It was fun.
Any favorites? Did you have anything that you'd recommend to the audience that's worth people giving a look-see at?
Now, you may think this is crazy, but a long time ago, someone said that I had a passing resemblance to Richard Gere, like a very young Richard Gere. So I made time to watch American Gigolo this weekend, and I really liked it. And of course, I mean, he is a stud in that movie. So my self-esteem is through the roof. I mean, I can see a little Richard Gere in me, and and it makes me feel good that that guy was just getting all the ladies, and people were paying for it too.
What about your lady friend? Does she agree? Does she agree with this reflection of you and Richard Gere? Or does she not see it at all?
Oh, she sees it, of course.
Okay, of course. Well, of course. I would expect nothing less. Joey, my younger daughter Abby, she's really into like the action movies, so she's watched all the Marvel Avenger movies and all that, and now she's working her way through the Bond. The Daniel Craig Bond franchise. And we watched these movies with her, although Abby's she's almost 16 years old, so young adult. And the Bond stuff's, there's some violence and stuff like that going on, but for action movies, they're a lot of fun. So anyway, we watched Spectre. We watched Spectre over the weekend. That is a good flick. In fact, all of them are. The only one that kind of loses me. I'll sit there and watch it. I'll put it on like white noise in the background. But Quantum of Solace, it's kind of all over the place, and it's hard to follow the story. But we watched Spectre again over the weekend. Were you a fan? Were you a fan of Daniel Craig, James Bond?
I was a little bit of a fan of how realistic they took it with Daniel Craig, but something I really missed out on was my dad and I never bonded over James Bond films. My best friend, him and his dad, they loved him. It's his favorite series. So whenever I hang out with him, I get a little jealous. So I have been going back and trying to watch the original ones. And pretty recently, I did watch Goldfinger, and I was not ready for just how funny they are, how silly they are. I mean, Sean Connery, I always knew he was a sexy stud, but I mean, those movies are so funny. It starts out with him pretending to be a duck. He's got a little duck on his head, and he crawls out of the water. And the sets seem a little flimsy too, but it was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, those movies were definitely campier, whereas the Daniel Craig series took it a lot more seriously, and there was a lot more action and drama, and they're kind of dark, honestly. They get kind of dark and melancholy. But I thought it was a great series. I thought it was really a fantastic series as well. So I'm a big Daniel Craig James Bond guy.
Yeah,
so
a lot of guesses on who's going to take over the mantle, whether it be maybe a black guy or what's going to happen. I heard Dev Patel, an Indian guy, he could take it over. I don't know who's up.
Yeah, there's still a lot of circumspection on that as well. So, all right, well, there we go. Don't know if we're going to have any more big snow days ahead. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold over the next couple weeks. So I'm going to have a brief warm up, and then so we're going to have probably more time to get through some of our favorites. It is nearly 5:57, which means it's time for us to pack it up and get the heck out of here. I'm going to have a lot of great stories. Chris and I both will, because Chris is here as well at the Missouri Capitol. Have lots to regale you with tomorrow from the ball, the Governor's Ball. Everybody's in their finest. We're going to go eat and drink our way through the Capitol and maybe dance off the carbs after that. Hey, Larry Connors, USA, he's coming up next. He has got a fantastic lineup featuring Governor Newsom looking to blame others for the LA wildfires. He should look in the mirror. Margot Cleveland with the Federalist and how the left will continue the left-wing liberal lawfare. And what one leftist says about natural disasters will leave you shaken in anger. All of that up next. Larry Connors, USA. Tim Jones for Chris Arps and Joey V. Signing off. We'll be back tomorrow here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire and back again.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fenceworks. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fenceworks, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting